The World Ends With You is a Japanese role-playing game released in 2007 in Japan and a year later in North America for the Nintendo DS. It's made by the Japanese game companies Jupiter and Square Enix, the producer of Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and Dragon Quest. The World Ends With You was very successful in terms of ratings and reception because of its graphical presentation, soundtracks, and for the fact that it was such an innovative game of its genre at the time. This game really did a great job on building an experience perfect for a dual-screen handheld with a touchscreen. As an explorer-type gamer with a slight OCD for collecting things, it was easily my favorite and most memorable game on the DS. Square Enix's business model focuses on polymorphic content, which means the company is not limited to only one media or platform. This naturally affects their game design, as the game will have to have elements that will be easily portable to, say, a manga, anime, or collectibles. Therefore, rather than starting the game development process with a specific genre or mechanics of gameplay from the get-go, Square Enix typically starts with a plot, character, and art. It's no wonder most of their games fall under the Japanese RPG genre. Japanese RPGs differ from Western RPGs in quite a few areas. You can kind of guess the differences by noting the relative popularity of different genres of video games in Japan and North America. Both rely on mimicry as the primary category of play, but both approach immersion differently. It seems that there is a heavier focus on the Ilinx category of play in terms of what makes a game fun in North America. Sometimes their games make you feel like you're in a movie because of all the graphics and the sound. Under Western standards, some people don't even consider JRPGs as games because of their primary focus on story rather than game mechanics. While Western RPGs immerse the player in a magic circle with a lot of possibility for physical exploration and often hyper-realistic graphics, Japanese RPGs do this by attempting to engage the player with a thoroughly developed story and dynamic characters, seeking to elicit deep emotional responses from the player. The World Ends With You is a JRPG game, so it follows a predetermined story. Because of that, there's not much room for emergent gameplay that can actually change the outcome of the game. Actually, there's not a lot of emergent gameplay that can happen in the first place because there's not much agency in terms of progression of the story's plot. But half the fun of the game is in enjoying the story and the beautiful world anyway. You get to live out 3 in-game weeks in an alternate underground plane of existence in Shibuya of Tokyo, playing in the Reaper's game using awesome psychic pins. But I argue that this game stands out from other traditional JRPGs nonetheless with its unique and ambitious battle system.
What?
The game takes place in a semi-fictional modern sub-region of Tokyo, Shibuya. You wake up as Neku in the underground, an alternate plane of existence for the dead. This place is where you're forced to play the Reaper's game for a reason that you don't know yet. The penalty for losing the game at first seems to be erasure, whatever that means. You also seem to have woken up with a pin that allows you to read thoughts of people in the real ground, aka the plane of existence for the living. The whole game consists of 3 in-game weeks broken up into 7 days each. Each day, a mission is given out through your in-game cell phone. Through the game, you will have to defeat monsters called Noise using powers from the pins that you collect. The unique dual-screen battle system is complex enough to make a player feel the sense of competency, which is one of the 3 pillars of a good experience. Being good at defeating Noise requires tactile and, strangely enough, multitasking skills. One hand controls Neku on the touchscreen, and the other hand controls Neku's partner on the top screen with the arrow buttons. In battle, your partner on the top screen will automatically be set to AI mode if you don't attempt to control them. But really, a player would have to manually control it to be able to defeat any of the more difficult enemies. Then here's where the autonomy and customization come in. To win battles, the player must have equipped pins and clothes and have a selected level of difficulty. The amount of objects in the game is amazing. There are over 300 pins, hundreds of clothing items, and hundreds of food items you can use, all with different attributes such as stat boosts and abilities. This, I would argue, more than compensates for the lack of agency in terms of story progression. These item lists can be filled by fighting Noise, completing quests, or buying them from stores. Some items also need to be unlocked. The completion rates of these lists are displayed on the save screen, tempting people like me to reach 100% for every list. This battle system, combined with the item incentives, makes grinding actually fun. After the 3 weeks in the main game, there are secret reports, which are little documents you can read after completing some missions in the form of riddles. These secret reports have a lot of background information and trivia about the main game, so for some, these give the game a big replay value. This aspect of the game is perfect for richer bottles, achievers, and explorers who want to know every neat little detail about the game and want to get that perfect game report, which displays the percentage of items, pins, and noise report. Compared to Final Fantasy and the other more popular franchises that Square Enix has produced, The World Ends With You can be considered a gamble because of how different it was. Though still lesser known than those big titles, this game has still been pretty successful. The game's soundtrack has been particularly well received and has released more than 2 albums. Actually, a significant part of the game cartridge itself was to store the game's songs, and it turned out to be well worth it. The developers themselves have explained their choice of using Shibuya to provide a sense of reality to the players and give them a sense of relatedness to the in-game characters. Not to mention many JRPGs are set in sci-fi or fantasy settings, so one that takes place in an urban setting is definitely refreshing and stands out. Some die-hard fans have actually tried to see if the real Shibuya matches the one in the game. Rather than being attacked by random monsters that engage you in a turn-based system, this game gives the player the autonomy to chain as many battles as they want, gouging their own risk of losing versus increasing the drop rate of certain pins by enemies. This flexibility of the game's difficulty can possibly attract new players who have stayed away from JRPGs. Quite recently, an iOS and Android version of The World Ends With You has been released. Because the game was made for a touchscreen since the beginning, the gaming experience on tablets and smartphones is very natural despite the missing screen. The whole game itself is pay-to-play for about $20, with some of the previously unlockable items being available now as in-app purchases. $20 for a mobile game is quite a lot by today's standards, but is still quite a deal compared to its initial MSRP of $40. It seems the game is mainly going to attract old fans to replay the game rather than attracting gamers though. This game had certain pins that were only obtainable through evolving some pins with mingle points. You can get these points by playing a minigame called Tin Pin Slammer by connecting your DS with another player. Personally, I only played it because I wanted to get the points, otherwise I honestly wouldn't have bothered. The usual spin-off contents of JRPGs exist for this game too, but when compared to other titles, there's not much. In general, there isn't too much of a big cohesive community or fanbase for The World Ends With You, and being a Japanese role-playing game, there isn't much room for participatory gaming here either. Overall, this game is a good solitary game with refreshing graphics and a great soundtrack that might just be able to change your perspective on JRPGs.
All the world needs is me. I got my values. So you can keep yours, alright?